Yeah, I can tell you it wasn't easy, right? As I've told you, Brett, several times, it's, I'll always bet on myself, right? And I'm going to bet on myself first, every time. I know I can take a building and I can fix it. I can raise the rents. I can grind away and get it to work within reason. Obviously, you have to buy it right. There is a floor to what you can do, in terms of that. But I had to get comfortable with, these individuals that would come in, the Campbell Law Group, Robert Binkley, and, yourself to a degree, right? I mean, we had known each other 10, 12 years, something along those lines, but, kind of in a different sense, right? From a realtor to now, being part of this trust. So I had to really dig in and say, okay, I'm going to take hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and trust somebody else. I have to somehow pivot and be able to say, okay, I'm going to trust somebody else instead of myself, right? And I'm very what's the word I'm looking for? I'm very skeptical, right? I'm a very skeptical person. I'm going to dig and I'm going to dig. And my wife's even more skeptical than I am, right? So if I say, hey, look at this, she's going to say, poke holes in 4 or 5 different other things, right, about it. But it took some time, and we had to move relatively quickly. I think we started figuring out that this wasn't going to work probably mid-November, end of November. The property was
On the
closing
21
December.
units.
Yes, yes. And then also then on the 7 units, right? That deal was going to close, and I had to figure out where to put the money, right, in a matter of 20 days. So a lot of time on the phone, a lot of digging, a lot of Googling, trying to see, what I could find out about Campbell Law and Robert Binkley, and a lot of time on the phone with them, trying to find out what this was all about. So it wasn't an easy shift for me at all.
Absolutely. And that's common with all of our clients, right? It's a sense taking, what you've always known and the sense of, hey, I've got control, to releasing that and putting faith and trust in this group with this new concept that maybe your CP hadn't told you about, right? That perhaps, you've never heard another commercial real estate broker tell you about, and it's shifting from everything you know. And it is certainly a challenge. It was even a challenge for me too. I remember sitting at Marcus and Millichap, hearing about this for the first time about 10 years ago, about when I met you, Steve, for the first time, and saying, this seems like it's too good to be true. So we understand why you would be nervous. We understand why you'd be skeptical, and we understand why it is a challenge to make this shift. So, but now that we've made the shift, tell us what life looks like now, and walk us through essentially the wave of emotions, right? You sell at the peak, right? And then you're sitting in an investment portfolio, right? And you can also maybe talk about a little bit, your thoughts on stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and your experience with that.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden everything crashes. Walk us through that whole, emotional roller coaster that it's been really the past, 4 weeks.
Yeah. So, to go back, the initial was I was really disappointed, right? My deal fell through, even though I had the DST as a backstop. It felt like a backstop. It felt like, okay, it didn't work, but here's my second best choice. It's better than paying the tax man, right? At least that was my initial feeling. Um, and really disappointed I couldn't get those 21 units, because I was just going to keep moving up, right? Um, as we continued to dig into it and really kind of understand what the opportunity looked like, this light started kind of shining and kind of going, you know what? Maybe this is okay. Maybe this is going to be okay. Maybe there's an opportunity here, to potentially have these dollars on the sideline, and I can go and find more syndicated deals, right? As I said, I'm in 4 of them today. Maybe there's an opportunity to continue to do that instead of getting the 3% return and spending. I've got a day job already. Where I'm a vice president in a small software firm. I already spend 40, 50 hours a week at that job, and then on top of it, right, trying to do this kind of nights and weekends and piecing that together. Maybe I don't have to do that, right? Maybe I don't have to grind like I would have with the 21 unit building. and I can take those dollars and maybe putting them into a syndication, making that 3%, like I said up front, right? Make 6%, 7%, preferred return to start, and having that work for me. And as we started kind of, going through it, started looking at some of the opportunities. So Robert Binkley put us in a couple things. I think actually 4 investments. The majority of our money went into a mutual fund called Swan. And I won't get into a ton of detail because I'm obviously not the expert. But what was really attractive to me was, as Robert explained it, right? Swan is there and it hedges the market. So if something happens, actually Swan starts to, one, it'll hedge and you won't fall too far. But when the market recovers, you kind of slingshot up and you actually find, more returns. So that was really interesting to me because I've got plenty of money in 401ks and stocks and things of that nature. This was my real estate money, and I didn't want to take the real estate money and put it back into the stock market, right? I want to keep some sort of balance. So that was good. I felt like that was something that was interesting. And then we picked, I think 3 other stocks. One was like a bond fund, a 5G company, and then I think one other item, right? But I think maybe upwards of 60 to 70% of my money went into the Swan investment, and that was attractive to me, right? Because to have that backstop. But I wasn't really sure, right? They say, well, this thing kind of, it's here and it's going to work and it's fantastic. Trust me, right? And again, who do you trust? Do you have the trust? And do you trust yourself versus, other people? And kind of on and on. It wasn't really until this, COVID-19 induced recession that I could really see the value of the Swan, uh, investment. So, kind of fast forward here now, and the market's starting to get back. It's April 25th today as we talk about this. But in the last week, I think the market's gone up just about every day. But, and I haven't checked the Swan in maybe a week or week and a half. So at some point, though, it was only down about 5%. Where, some of my other investments, whether it's my 401k, some of the other stocks we invested in are down substantially, right? 30 plus percent. So it worked. And that was really kind of an aha moment, right? I was like, okay, I'm not sure if this thing's actually going to work until we actually see a downturn. I didn't think we were going to see a downturn as we were putting our money in January. Things were looking great, right? All of the, I think the central bank came out and said, we don't foresee a recession this year, and we're going to, up our opinion of what's going to happen in the market. And, blue sky, birds were singing, and then, here comes a pandemic. And, and in hindsight, thank goodness that the 21 unit building didn't work out because, as I mentioned, the tenant mix, I think, would have been challenging to have people pay their rent. We would have been in a spot where we needed capital to, fix things. And I think it would have been a whole lot of stress, right? As I said to you, Brett, the other day, right? I do a lot of my I do a lot of my own, kind of forecasting and numbers and underwriting on buildings. I didn't underwrite for a pandemic. I don't think anybody does, right? And it just happened. And I'm grateful that it worked out that I ended up in the DST.